On November 9th, 2023, Dominic triggered an avalanche in the Great Gulf on the northeastern side of Mount Washington. The plan was to ski Airplane Gully, which is one of the longer and more remote lines in the presidentials. This is really the perfect episode to produce as we all roll into fall and start thinking about the winter season approaching. Things like, what type of ski bindings are you going to invest in this fall and why? What type of equipment will be in your backcountry pack? What type of skills will your backcountry partners have? I hope you learned something from this episode, and of course, I hope you enjoy.
So my name is Dominic Toro. I am a New Hampshire native. I've grown up here, never left, 32 years old, very passionate backcountry skier. Kind of grew up in the White Mountain area, enjoy ice climbing, rock climbing, but I will say that my passion is definitely snow sports, specifically ski mountaineering. I've been doing it for 10 years. I grew up actually alpine racing. Did not do it in college, but was a competitive alpine ski racer for 16 years. And then,
Wow.
and then transitioned into backcountry skiing because I felt a little bit burnt out from the competitive nature of racing. But traveled all over New England with my family for 16 years, competing in all sorts of different race events, and did pretty well. It got to be a little too much. I wanted to enjoy nature more than the competitive side of skiing. So that's what got me into backcountry skiing.
You've been skiing for a long time.
Yeah, I've been skiing since I was 3 years old.
Wow.
Started in my
backyard. Did your parents put you on one of those harnesses and those little leashes?
My dad put me on skis in the backyard and let me go down the hill. That was my intro to skiing. And then we lived 15 minutes away from Mount Sunapee, so I kind of grew up on that mountain. I was there Saturday, Sunday, every single weekend for the entire season, mostly training for racing, but yes, I've been skiing for 28 years.
And so you probably knew all the lifties' first names.
Yeah, I knew them. They knew me. They kind of looked out for my sister and I. It was easy just to wander off and kind of do our own thing. We were so familiar with the mountain, but my parents were definitely like, where are these kids sometimes?
That's great.
Had a blast. Was very fortunate to have grown up so close to a resort and to have had that opportunity.
Yeah, cool. That's cool that you can look back and think that too. A lot of people grew up skiing, but they don't realize how privileged that lifestyle is.
Yeah, I'm extremely grateful. My dad worked at Sunapee to kind of to put my sister and I through the program. If you work there, you get passes for family members. So it's something that I will always be grateful for.
We've been talking back and forth since the end of 2023.
Yeah, a year and a half. So.
Yeah, and trying to get this interview, there's been a combination of reasons why I've had to cancel, mostly my super bad allergies that flare up and debilitate me. And then on your end, there was a couple of reasons why you had to cancel. I think it was recovery stuff, right?
Yeah, probably recovery, surgical stuff, appointments.
Complications, things like that. Yep. So I'm excited to finally get to sit with you and on opposite ends of the country and hear your story.
Yeah. So December 9th of 2023, I was involved. I triggered an avalanche in the Great Gulf, which people who are not familiar with Mount Washington is kind of on the northeastern side of Mount Washington. Most of the lines are northeastern facing. So you end up with the same kind of high snowpack that the Tuckerman Ravine area ends up with, but most people are familiar with Tucks, and that's it. So Great Gulf. So December 9th of 2023, went out to ski the Great Gulf with a plan to potentially ski Airplane Gully, which my touring partner and I had skied several times before. I mean, Great Gulf, that area is one of my favorite places on Mount Washington to ski. I've skied Airplane Gully probably 15, 20 times over the years.
Is it like a long run?
It's one of the longer runs in the presidentials. It's pretty remote, really phenomenal terrain. It's kind of like a rock-lined gully, pretty steep at the top, and then mellows out as you get down towards the drainage area. But yeah, it's definitely one of the longer runs in the presidentials. And we had gone up knowing that we were we read the avalanche forecast, we had read the bulletin, we had been out the day prior. We skied actually on the east side of Washington. We went up into the Gulf of Slides area, and we had noticed some small avalanches, small wind slabs had broken day before. So we were going into this well aware of the conditions, that there was potential wind slab danger. We read the Avi bulletin. We knew the weather. We had been out there kind of experiencing it firsthand. And we also had a plan B to just summit and ski the cog, which is very low. I mean, it's not no danger, but it's a lot less hazardous than trying to drop into a kind of consequential line like Airplane Gully.
A committing run, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my touring partner, his name's Adam, a really, really strong touring partner. Between the two of us, we have a lot of experience backcountry skiing, as well as wilderness medical experience. He took an EMT course. I've recertified my WFR twice.
That's a good backcountry partner. You both are.
Yeah.
It's like you want your partner to have, a minimum woofer.
Right, exactly.
And he's an EMT. That's like even better.
Yeah, I don't know that he fully finished, but I do know that he took the entire course. I just don't think he ever went through with the certification. He's a mechanical engineer, really smart kid. Well, he's an adult, but so anyways, we had a plan B. We went up in there knowing that there could be potential wind slab, but we were just stoked to be up there and out in nature. And the weather was beautiful out the day that we were up there. It was sunny, calm. The temps were slowly and steadily rising throughout the day, and we were well aware of that. I think it got to like 34, 35 degrees on the summit that day, which is relatively warm for that time of year, but still didn't raise any major red flags. Like I said, we had talked about plan B, just skiing the cog and calling it a day. So we had all this in mind as before we even started our tour. But we got up into the Great Gulf area and it looked really good. And if you've been up into the Great Gulf early season, it's so different than going in March or April. It's like the gullies are very defined, the rocks are jagged and sticking, and nothing's fully buried yet. It just looks so much more intense. And having that background of skiing, having skied for 25, 30 years between, and him as well, Adam's been skiing for a long time. We wanted to ski something steep and fun that day, but we were also well aware of the dangers of it. And so we got up there and, we both have taken Avalanche courses. We've both taken Airy 1 and 2 courses. So we got up there, we dug a pit. We did some stability testing. We did an ECT, which is an extended column test. We saw no signs of instability in the snowpack, but we were still a little bit unsure about skiing. We had seen avalanches the days prior, but these were heavily wind-loaded areas.
The avalanche that you saw the avalanches on were heavily wind-loaded.
Yeah, the day before, so December 8th. And we were, based on some of the testing that we had done at the top of Airplane Gully, we were pretty sure, mostly sure that we could get away skiing it safely, one at a time with radio communication and keeping an eye on things as we were descending. And we were still doing snow testing. We dropped a little cornice to see if it was going to trigger anything, and nothing red flag. For the most part, we felt pretty good about skiing it that day.
What was a reservation in the back of your mind other than, you seeing some avalanches the day prior? What was in your mind that day when you're like, did all the testing, everything looked good, conditions are great, a little bit warm, but you like...
Yeah, good question. I think just the nature of that line early season, It is super committing. It funnels you through a rock gully, essentially. And I've skied it early season before. I went up and skied it the year prior, early season, but there was a rain event a couple days before I got up there, and then everything froze solid. It was a sheet of ice, and I love skiing ice. Like, it's
So classic East Coast.
I love it. They used to
So classic East Coast.
yeah, they used to salt the race courses. Like, part of the reason I love ice is because I grew up on it, and it doesn't
Right.
it
You're a
doesn't scare
professional
me.
ice skier.
Right.
You race. You were a ski racer. And
Yeah.
on the East Coast, which is like professional ice skiing.
Yeah,
essentially.
I love skiing. I love skiing blue ice. People think it's crazy, but
It is crazy. We call that ice skating up here in Alaska.
That's fair. I have more fun chattering my way down an icy luge track than I do skiing powder. And it's some of my West Coast friends they just think that's absolutely nuts, but I don't know, it's a, kind of an adrenaline thing as well. Like, I trust my equipment, I trust myself, my abilities to maintain an edge on ice and ski it confidently.
Okay, so you're standing on the top.
Yeah, we had done some snow tests. We had kind of cleared any immediate red flags. And then a kid named Kevin, who I'm actually close friends with now, kind of came out of nowhere. And I had seen him up skiing in the presidentials before. Real good kid, strong skier. He looked at us. He skied over the line, ready to go, like skis on, ready to go. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" I was like, "We're doing some snow tests. We're checking for stability. We were out here the day before and saw some red flags. So we're just trying to determine whether or not we're going to ski this or go down the cog and just call it a day." He's like, "Well, I'm dropping in."
Okay, bye.
Yeah, yeah. So he just dropped in and skied it, and it's one of those human factor things that they talk about in the Avalanche courses. It's like, just because someone skis the line before you, it doesn't matter. 15, 20, 30 people ski it before you. It doesn't mean that it's safe. But I mean, Adam and I, early season, we didn't ski anything the day before. We had been kind of holding off on skiing anything consequential so far in the season because of concerns about wind slab. So we saw him ski it, rip down it. Him and I were talking. We waited for him to boot up to the point where we could see him. I think that's an important thing to mention as well. A lot of people may have just dropped right in. Don't drop in on top of people during midwinter snowpack. It's super dangerous. But we waited until we could see him. We had eyes on him. And then Adam and I made the decision to kind of leapfrog and ski one at a time down to a safe point. We skied like 200-300 feet down to where the slab, are just up above where the slab actually broke on me, so we could communicate with Kevin. We knew we weren't going to trigger anything on top of him. We got down to a point. I radioed up to Adam and I said, "Hey, you're good to go. The snow feels super solid. It's like no red flags. Nothing's breaking at my feet. Nothing's slabbing out. Like, I felt like we were good to go, you know." So he skied down to me, and we waited for Kevin to kind of boot up so he was completely out of the way of the remainder of the line. And I had asked Kevin, it's like, how was it? Like, did you see anything noticeable? Like, anything kind of breaking off at your feet? Notice any wind slab? Like, because he had just skied the entire line. We had waited probably 20, 30 minutes for him to boot up to a point where we could see him. And he said, "No, it's good to go." So Adam and I talked a little bit more. We were to the skier's right of that choke where there's a rock where the slab actually broke. And I said, "All right, I'm going to ski it. I'm dropping." Made about 10, 15 turns. And then next thing you know, I'm knocked off my feet and barreling down Airplane Gully really, really fast. And it all happened so fast too. It was like one moment we were talking, like, it looks really good. This kid, we don't really know this kid, but he said it's good to go. We just saw him ski it. And I think at that point, kind of adrenaline had kicked in. We were ready to go. We didn't really talk about much else other than skiing the line. And I dropped in, and like I said, 10, 15 turns into it, I felt my feet sweep out from underneath me. And the rest of it, I was awake and conscious the entire time. The avalanche was carrying me down Airplane Gully, but a lot of it was kind of a blur because I was really getting tossed around pretty good in the snow. It wasn't a very deep snowpack. It was an early season snowpack. So this slab that released and carried me down like 700-800 feet was small. It was like a 6 to 12 inch wind slab, but it had enough kind of force and inertia that it just swept me. And I was at that point, I was along for the ride. There was no escaping it.
Well, also too, it's 6 to 12 inches where it broke at the crown by the rock, but then you have 700 to 800 feet of snow accumulation that is also like cement.
Yeah, and a lot of smaller wind slabs kind of sympathetically released as I was sliding down the gut of Airplane Gully. And I just remember kind of getting thrashed around, and I saw my right ski come off, and then I went over a rock, like a little buttress, and I just felt like this insanely hot, indescribable pain. And then I realized that my left ski had not released. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my leg was like noodling. It was like another couple 100 feet, very, very slow motion at this point, because at that point I had gone through the steep stuff and could kind of hit the run out where it mellows out a little bit. And as soon as I stopped, and my ski and my leg were facing the wrong direction, so I radioed up to Adam, and I was like, compound fracture, compound fracture. My bone is sticking out of my shin right now.
So you saw your bone sticking out of yours, like you could feel it or you could see it.
I couldn't see it because we hadn't cut my snow pants yet. But I knew as soon as I stopped that something was very wrong.
Were you bleeding a bunch?
I was bleeding a significant amount, but not as bad as it could have potentially been, because the tibial artery is something that I nicked. My bone nicked it, but it wasn't like a compound fracture where my bone was sticking like 3 to 4 inches out of my leg. You could just barely see the fracture where it kind of poked through. It was like a little puncture wound. But it was startling because I could see blood in my snow pants. I still had my ski on, and it was kind of kinked up behind me with my leg like bent the wrong way.
This serious visual.
It was, yeah.
Were you so if you could see your legs, I'm going to safely assume that you were not buried in the avalanche.
I was not buried at all. And in fact, the amount of snow that was below me, like the slide debris, was very minimal. It was not a lot it was enough snow to carry me like full momentum, like 400 or 500, 600 feet. But I don't think it was enough to bury me. The debris pile was pretty small. It wasn't a lot of snow, but it was moving fast enough to cause some pretty serious damage.
Clearly, your leg was facing the wrong direction.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's crazy to think about too is if my left ski had come off, I probably would have walked out that day. I mean, it's definitely kind of drives home the point to double check your gear, make sure everything is.
Do you think that they didn't release because you were born and bred a ski racer? So I bet your din was just cranked down to the max.
I already am slightly hesitant to trust touring bindings, so I did not have my din cranked at all. In fact, and I was doing a lot of research on these specific touring bindings that I had. The Fritzky Tecton, they're a plastic touring binding. And a lot of people asked me if I had locked the toe out. And I was like, no, I never lock the toe out unless I'm skiing over like an open crevasse on a glacier and like I can't lose a ski. It's like in the whites, I never really lock. There's no terrain in the whites that feels consequential enough to lock my toe out and risk breaking my leg. So I think what happened is there was enough force to release the heel of my binding. If you release the heel a binding on a pin style binding and there's not enough force to knock the toe out either, it will stay pretty well latched onto your boot. And those Fritzky Tecton bindings to begin with are stiff and hesitant to release, I found out after doing quite a bit of research after this accident happened. So no, the DINs were set properly, and I had released from them before in pretty significant crashes. But I think what happened is there was no significant force to knock my foot out of the boot. My leg was just flailing in the air and slowly twisting. I think it's just kind of the nature of those pin bindings too, is you see a lot of people with broken tib fibs from kind of slow twisting falls, and it fails to release, or releases just a bit too late.
So you're laying there, you radioed up to Adam, hey man, I did something awful to my leg. And then what does he radio back to you?
I think he at that point kind of skied down to me. No more radio communications. He was up there with Kevin, obviously, who neither of us had met. I had seen him but never talked to him in person. And I mean, Kevin was pretty shaken up as well, but there was two of them up there. I think they made the call to come down to me, obviously, and kind of check out what the injuries were. But Adam got down to me, and I mean, the first thing that we did was surprise. We had service. We called 911. And then, so we had 911 on the phone. They're asking me to explain where I am. I'm kind of in a little bit of shock. And Adam and all three of us were like, "Holy crap! Like, what are we gonna do? We're in a remote area on the backside of Mount Washington, and we are here alone. And it's 11:30 in the afternoon, and it's windy and it's cold." But the emergency services lady connected us with New Hampshire Fish and Game, which in turn connected us with a very experienced backcountry medic. And we had him on the phone. The SOS signal and everything was activated, like in process. People were aware that we were up there with severe injury. I was not getting out on my own at that point. And I think it was determined that they would try to call the New Hampshire Air National Guard and see if they could do a Black Hawk rescue. But they were unsure whether or not they would be able to perform the rescue because of the winds and the nature of the terrain. So they also, and I forget which rescue service they called, but there was also a rescue service that was utilized and making their way up the cog railway, and they were going to traverse across kind of just a off the top of my head estimate that probably would have taken like a 16 to 18 hour like time frame with probably 10 people, but they were on their way.
Did any of you three have extra layers that you could put on? We were just sitting there freezing your butt off?
Yes, we were very, very, very well prepared.
Yeah, that's great.
Between Adam and I, we had 2 emergency bivvies. We had 3 puffy jackets. Kevin actually gave me his puffy jacket.
Oh, wow.
Adam had a very well stocked first aid kit with bleed stop and trauma pads. And
what a great team.
It was really, I mean, it was incredible, the resources that we had available to us kind of as a team, and what we were able to do just hanging out on the backside of Mount Washington with a compound fracture. So, I mean, one of the first things that we did was get my ski off and pulled traction on my leg, which was extremely, extremely painful. But one of the things with a compound fracture is if bone is pressing on anything that it shouldn't be, and it's actually out of your, like, sticking out, like, it can cause ischemia and tissue death, and you could lose a limb. I mean, at that point, I was pretty convinced that I may lose my leg. I was just looking at it.
Like, there's no way this thing is gonna make it. Yeah.
Yeah, we had cut my ski pants open, and I could see the puncture wound from my tibia that snapped right in the middle, kind of. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna walk again. But that was kind of the back of my mind, but at the same time, like, my medical instincts as well as Adam's kicked in, and we were just like, we were first responders to the serious accident that had just happened. And Adam, he was incredible. He took out his first aid kit, took out the stuff that I had. They had dug a bench for me so I could kind of lay down and they could pull my leg straight after removing my ski. They dug a bench for the Air National Guard.
A landing pad.
Yeah, and that was actually something that the Fish and Game officer had recommended to us, is to try to dig as big a bench as we could just to make the rescue process smoother. But yeah, we had pulled my leg into traction. We were applying pressure on it after we had dumped a whole bag of bleed stop into the puncture wound. And I don't know if it helped, but I really think it did something, because I did nick my tibial artery and it was squirting, like you see in the movies, with some pressure. But once we had my leg pulled into traction, my ski was off. I was all bundled up in emergency bivvies and 2 to 3 puffy jackets. And, Kevin was kind of hovering over me and like hugging me to keep me warm. Throughout this entire time, we were also talking to a very experienced backcountry medic on the phone. And we knew that the potential helicopter rescue was coming. If that didn't work out, we knew we had people coming up the cog.
How did you hold traction after you pulled the traction?
We didn't have to hold. So I say pull traction. We got the tip of the bone back into my leg as best we could, because it was just barely poking out, and they pulled it, and I could feel it. I could feel it actually kind of align itself. If it was more of a severe fracture where it was really sticking out, I think we would have had to rig something together with some ski poles or skis.
Yeah, because if you decide to pull traction on a type of injury like you had in the field, you have to maintain the traction, because if you don't and that bone slips out of place again, you can sever or nick an artery, which yours already was, but you can do more damage and then ultimately potentially lose your leg. So they say don't pull traction in the field unless you know you can maintain the traction. But if you're maintaining the traction, I mean, as your friend knows, Adam and Kevin know, just pulling it took so much force for their bodies to pull, right? And it caused you a lot of pain. But then usually if you pull it and it goes back into place, there is a sense of relief on the patient's body, like, oh, that's a normal feeling, So it's a big decision to pull traction in the field.
We also applied a tourniquet, which was a big decision as well. And still, kind of having talked to people after the accident, I'm still not sure if that was 100% the right move. Our thought was, I am profusely bleeding. We need to stop this.
Yeah, well, if you guys applied pressure, I mean, what did the medics say? I mean, my thought, I'm an EMT,
Yeah.
and my thought instinctively would be if you applied direct pressure
And it was still bleeding.
and it was still squirting and bleeding,
Yeah.
then you want to apply a tourniquet.
Yeah.
If you're unable to stop the bleeding with direct pressure, that's my understanding.
Yeah, they weren't against it, but some severe complications I had. I had compartment syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Tell the listeners what that is.
So it's when your muscle swells to the point where it cannot relieve pressure, and it causes ischemia or cell and tissue death. If your muscle dies, it's no longer viable. You have to remove it. And the problem with that is it will cut off blood supply to, in my case, it was my leg. And you'll lose your leg if you don't fix it immediately.
God, it must have been so scary for you to think about all this, because all this from your woofer courses.
Yeah, and honestly, I think my ski boot did. I think having the ski boot on helped the compartment syndrome a little bit, because it was so tight. It didn't really allow for the insane swelling until they took it off in the hospital. And they're like, oh my gosh, emergency surgery right now. So I have the zipper scars up and down each side of my calf, because they had to do that procedure in order to relieve the pressure in my muscle compartments. Fasciotomy.
Wow.
Is what the procedure is called. And you can tell if someone's had compartment syndrome on their calf or in their lower leg, because there will be a zipper scar running down whichever compartment was experiencing that swelling. if you have severe compartment syndrome, they actually do a skin graft to close the wound, because my leg in the hospital, my calf was the size of my upper quad.
Oh, wow. So let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to hear about you guys had tons of extra equipment and a really well stocked medical kit.
Yes.
You stomped out a landing pad. You carved a bench for you to lay on. They kept you warm with 2 bivvies, which is insane that you guys had those. And how long did it take you to get rescued?
I stopped sliding and realized that my leg was broken at 11:30, and the Black Hawk picked me up around 3:30 to 4 o'clock.
Wow, that's actually a really impressive time.
It was for them having been so unsure about being able to rescue me with the conditions, the weather, deteriorating weather conditions. It was very fast response time.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, these guys, I definitely credit them to the fact that I still have a lower limb. It's if I had been taken out via the cog, or I'm not sure if they would have brought me down towards Route 16, because getting me up Airplane Gully would have been a I don't know what their plan was. The guys that were coming to rescue me on foot would have been a lot of rope work, a lot of hauling, a lot of
Maybe just supported the helicopter coming in or something. Who knows?
yeah. Well, the thing is, like with the winds and stuff, the helicopter team that rescued me actually won an award for the rescue. They submitted it to I forget the name of the award, but it was like one of the most challenging rescue award of the year, and they had let me know a couple weeks ago.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so these are like top notch, really, really impressive. The pilot held the helicopter steady while lowering the litter,
In winds.
30-40 mile per hour winds. And I mean, the way that they had to lift me out of there too, they're only hovering like 40-50 feet above the ground, with the northwesterly winds just whipping up that gully. And yeah, I'm laying there.
Oh, those pilots are so badass. Oh my goodness.
It's really, really impressive. Definitely.
Did all 3 of you guys get out on the Black Hawk?
No, Adam and Kevin ended up hiking out. Yeah. I'm actually glad that they hiked out, because they were able to get a lot of pictures of the crowns of the avalanche, and kind of allowed for me and the Mount Washington Avalanche Center to really analyze what happened and the size of the crown, and some of these sympathetic releases. And I don't think anyone actually got to go check out the layer that the avalanche slid on. There was snow shortly after this slide happened, but that data was really invaluable for the Avalanche Center, for me to kind of evaluate what happened, what I could have done differently. But yeah, Kevin asked, he's like, "Are we going to be able to ride on the helicopter?" And the guy's like, "I guess, but it's just going to delay everything." And Adam's like, "No, we're hiking out of here." I was like, "Okay."
Did they happen to find your ski that popped off early on in the tumble?
I have one of them. Kevin actually went up that spring and kind of recovered some of my gear. He was able to find one of my skis, a couple of my poles. Still not sure what I'm going to do with the ski. Would like to, I don't know, burn it or blow it up or something to kind of put closure to that whole
Yeah.
event. But he did recover one of the skis for me. This upcoming spring, I'm going to go out there with Adam and Kevin and some close friends, and ski down Airplane Gully.
So, with that said, what are some of your lessons that you learned?
So I think the first lesson I learned is trust your gut instinct, in combination with gathering some factual data and using, hands-on information to make informed decisions. Trust your gut. Don't let external people, reasoning forces convince you that your gut is wrong. It's okay to question yourself, but I am a firm believer in trust your gut instinct. Mountains aren't going anywhere. When the time is right, you can go back and ski that line again. And just in my situation, we gathered the data. We had been out skiing the days prior to the accident. We read the Abbey forecast. We knew what we were getting into. We both saw Kevin drop in and ski the line, but there was still a small gut feeling that maybe we should just ski the cog that day.
It's your intuition.
Yeah, and it's in mountain sports, it's really important to pay attention to that intuition. Voice it with your touring partners, and use that to weigh into the decisions that you make, because there is a reason that exists. It's like you said, intuition, very important to listen to it. I've found. Second thing, find touring partners you can trust with your life.
Yes, totally. I hammer this one home on this podcast. What kind of partner do you want to be? And what kind of partner do you want to have? Like,
Right.
ask yourself that every single time you go out.
Yeah, I think kind of like you said too, reflecting on the partner that you are. Like, are you fully equipped for an emergency like this? Do you have a Garmin InReach or a Garmin Messenger? Like, is a lot of areas that have absolutely no service in the backcountry. You need a form of communication. Find partners that you can really, really trust. Maintain open communication and always be ready to pivot if necessary. And I'll always be grateful that Adam was who I was touring with that day. Between the two of us, like I think I had mentioned, we had several years of backcountry medical training under our belts and hundreds of days logged in the backcountry, proper first aid kits, radio communication, and a lot of experience touring together that allowed the outcome to turn out a lot better than it potentially could have. So find touring partners you can trust with your life. And I didn't mention this either, but I was working as a mountain guide for Redline Guiding. Obviously no longer doing that right now, but I did a lot of backcountry ski guiding, a lot of backpacking, hiking, intro to rock climbing, intro to ice. And this accident really kind of changed my perspective regarding guiding as well. I'm not fully sure whether or not I'll get back into it. If I do, I would like it to be just backcountry skiing, specifically focused avalanche courses eventually.
Like, you want to teach avalanche courses. Oh, cool.
Yeah, and really focus on the kind of the backcountry skiing aspect of it, and that's it. I feel comfortable doing that, and it kind of made me realize, like, I'm never going to be a rock guide. I'm never going to be a rock climbing guide. I'm never going to be an ice climbing guide. I love it. It's a blast. I have friends that I go out with that I trust with my life, good partners to go ice climbing. I don't want to be responsible for someone's safety in that environment, but I feel comfortable with the backcountry skiing. So if I get back into that side of the mountain sports and guiding, that's what I will kind of lean towards. Yeah, shift and pivot. Do what you're able
to. Shift and pivot.
The third thing that I'll mention, trusting modern medicine is hard. Patiently waiting for things to return to your quote unquote normal is even harder. You have to put in the work. I had 6 surgeries on my leg, and right up until about 7 months ago, I was unsure if I'd be able to walk again, let alone ski. I did everything in my power to make sure I'd have the best chance at returning to snow someday. I did PT. I bought all the PT stuff for my house, for my apartment as well, so I could do it whenever I had free time. Healthy diet, nutrition, mental health, staying in touch with friends and family. It all plays a big part in your eventual return to sport. And I think I mentioned this too, but I was in a position where limb salvage was the term used to describe my leg. The limb salvage programs are tricky too, because a lot of skiers, a lot of climbers, a lot of mountain bikers end up with severe injuries like this. It's just the nature of some of these sports. And when you're in a limb salvage program, or you're at a point where you're trying to recover function because of a severe injury, there is no guarantee that you will gain it back. Doctors don't promise you any. It's a complete roll of the dice. So it's, trusting modern medicine is very hard. And the only thing that you can do to better your chances are, trusting, it is hard, but trust in the process. Trust and believe in yourself, and know that even if you can't get back to the same things that you enjoyed before or at that level, that there are always things that you can do directly related to it that may be a couple steps below where you were at.
And accept that that is the new normal for now.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was looking into like I said, at one point, I was looking into prosthetics, and I was looking into, because I was like, this leg is not going to heal. It's just my body just does not want this to heal for me. Like 5 surgeries in, I was just checked out. So I was looking into like adaptive ski programs and thinking about some of the stuff that I would be able to do, maybe jump the gun a little bit on it. But I was like, at that point, I was like, I'm not going to be able to walk again. I've been using crutches for
Yeah.
almost a year and nothing's healing.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah. The next one, number 4, backcountry skiing is inherently dangerous. There are several things that you can do to limit the dangers, but even when you take all the proper steps and proper precautions and go out with partners that you can trust, things still happen. It's important to be prepared for any scenario. Even if you're on a short, small tour, you want to prepare for the worst case scenario. I think of people who go out to skin at their local resort. And I had a friend who was just going for an easy tour and cruising through the woods, ski popped off, hit a tree, like bleeding everywhere, didn't have anything with him.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it was just a daily thing that he did. And luckily there were people hiking that mountain that day that were able to assist him, because he hit his head hard enough where it was like a
Oh my gosh.
pretty severe injury, and he wasn't getting out of there on his own. It just makes me think, like, even if I'm going to skin up Pat's Peak, I throw my first aid kit in and I let someone know what I'm doing. Because skiing, especially backcountry skiing, is just inherently dangerous. And I'll mention that tib fib fracture is one of the most common ski injuries, especially with touring bindings. So not to scare people out of the sport, but it is a high likelihood injury if you take a hard fall or your binding fails to release. And then you look at the alpine bindings and you have the ACL, MCL injuries. It's just dangerous. So
I think I know at least 10 folks who are more than acquaintances to me. I would say they're friends.
yeah,
That have had a tib fib injury from backcountry skiing or snowboarding.
yeah. And honestly, I'll kind of pivot off of that too. Is I was very open with this whole experience on my Instagram page. I made some Reddit posts. I have connected with, like, the past year and a half, I have connected with at least 50 people who had severe tib fib injuries, and we all were bouncing ideas off of each other. I have I consider them friends now. I've been talking to them for a year and a half and have plans to, like, go visit these kids in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming. Like,
That's awesome. Make like a WhatsApp group of homies with tib fib fractures or something like that, and just have like a WhatsApp group so you can connect all those folks too, or a Facebook group or something.
right. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I really could have tried to just stomp out and keep to myself, but being so open about my experience with this whole injury and injury process has been a huge help.
And it created a community for you, and it created a community for them.
Right, exactly. And I've had a lot of people in the White Mountain community too that are just grateful that I didn't, stomp it out and try to hide it. I was very open. I was honest about my mistakes, what I would have done differently, open to talking to people about things that happened, and these medical procedures. Someone breaks their leg and they have questions, I'll answer whatever I am able to based on my experiences. I think it's important to create that community.
Yeah.
The last lesson learned, or thing I would like to share, is the search and rescue volunteers, Fish and Game, New Hampshire National Guard. These resources are invaluable in emergency situations such as mine. I credit the coordination and combination of these groups among the backcountry medics we were communicating with on the phone for still having my leg today. I purchase my Hike Safe card every year, supports New Hampshire Fish and Game. And I feel extremely grateful for the combined efforts of these organizations and teams to get me out of there, especially the New Hampshire National Guard medevac crew. They were phenomenal. I mean, these guys, extremely professional. It's wild because I've communicated and I've talked to a lot of them after the accident too, and they thanked me. They thanked me. I'm like, why are you thanking me? You guys risked your lives to save me. They're like, this is one of the most badass rescues we've ever done.
That's cool. And they won an award for it, it sounds like.
And they won an award for it. They were like nationally recognized for this rescue. And it's like a lot of people are like, is this kid going to pay for the helicopter? Is he going to pay for this stuff? He should be paying for all this stuff. I'm like, if you research, some of our tax dollars go to these emergency responders, and a lot of the emergency responders are volunteer crews.
Yes. Most are, yeah.
Most, in fact. And I'll kind of leave it off with like, if you have a couple dollars to donate or time to donate, if they have events that's fundraising money for those organizations. I mean, I don't hesitate at all to jump in and be a part of some of that stuff. And I mean, I am extremely grateful for the resources that were available in order to get me off that mountain that day. And it just goes to show that, you know, these people that are in those positions where they're able to, they want to be in the position where they're able to help someone, and they're trained for it. They're professionals.
And they constantly train for it.
Right, exactly. So just extremely grateful for the search and rescue volunteers and those organizations and the New Hampshire National Guard that were able to kind of evacuate me in one piece that day and coordinate everything.
Well, you were in a couple pieces, but you got put back together after 5 surgeries, 6 surgeries.
Yeah, I'll be going into number 7 this fall to remove the plate, but hopefully after that I'm done. So. And
then we're going to hear from you again next year after you do Mount Washington again.
Yes. Yeah, that would be neat.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for sharing your story with us. And thank you for listening to my podcast. Thank you to all the Patreon supporters. I hope that you're each enjoying all the Sharp End bonus content that is available exclusive on that platform. Thank you to Rocky Talkie, the American Alpine Institute, and Desert Mountain Medicine for sponsoring this episode. I want to let you all know that there are 2 very great questions that arose from this podcast for me. Number 1, when to pull traction on a tib-fib fracture in a backcountry setting. And number 2, when is a tourniquet needed? In other words, how do you know you should use a tourniquet on a patient in the field? Those are 2 questions that will 100% get answered by your Desert Mountain Medicine Wilderness First Responder instructor. If you don't have a woofer already, head on over to desertmountainmedicine.com and sign up. If you do it right now, you might be able to still get into their October course happening at a campground in Moab, Utah this fall. Don't forget to get your 10% off by saying Ashley from the Sharp End Podcast sent you that way. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. And as always, remember, play hard and be smart.